What's up, everybody? This is episode 92 of Hoops Talk with Dave's joint. Shout outs to those of us, to those of you that's been supporting us thus far. For those who haven't seen any of our episodes, go check us out on YouTube, Facebook, and IGTV. But before we start, check out the Players Circle, one of the most interactive basketball apps out there. Check it out on the App Store. Very cool, and you'll like all the merch, but also all the highlights and everything else. But without further ado, we have one of the best young coaches in college basketball right now. Um, he's the head coach at College of Staten Island, a Division II school in Staten Island, New York. Tonight, we have with us Mr. TJ Tibbs. TJ, thank you for coming on to share your testimony.
I appreciate you, Dave. Thanks for having me. Thanks for the kind words. I know there's a lot of great coaches out there, so I appreciate you saying that about me.
Indeed. So let's get started. What's TJ Tibbs' coaching philosophy?
The biggest thing and the main reason why I coach college basketball is because I got into it because I wanted to take young men to men. I wanted to help them go from that journey. It's really big. I've been fortunate to coach high school basketball and AAU basketball, and that's a great age, and you have an impact. And I think high school coaches and coaches that deal with those age of kids and youth age of kids, they have the toughest job. I think they have the toughest job of growing them and trying to mix a lot of different things as they're growing up at that age. But what really appealed to me because of my experience was that once you leave high school and you're on your own, there's a lot of things that you have to navigate, and your circle starts to get a little bit smaller, sometimes because of distance, sometimes because everybody's going on about their own goals to try to shape the rest of their life. And I wanted to be a person that was at the forefront of helping kids during a time where it seems like it should be easy and you should be mature enough to make your decisions, but we all know that that's not necessarily the case. So that was the biggest thing for me. So everything that we do in our program, anything I do as a coach, has to start and end with that. The decisions that we make in our program is how are we helping our kids grow. Of course, basketball has a big part to do with that. It's how we connect. It's things that we're all passionate about in the program. But I tell everybody that comes into our program that it's going to be the hardest 4 years you ever had in your life. That's my job, to make this harder than anything that you ever do, so that when you leave here and you have an experience that is difficult or you have a setback, you can kind of compare it to something that we put you through or you went through while you were in college. I won't know that I'm successful as a coach until probably I'm done 20, 30, 40 years from now. And I see the type of men that have developed from our program and have come back to be leaders, to help the other people that are in the program, and the more that we grow our family. So still, developing, and we understand that guys that are 18 to 23 years old, like, they're going to make a lot of mistakes, and it's how do we guide them and how do we shape them when they make those mistakes, and then how do we teach them the core tenets of our program through the game of basketball.
Well said. So when did basketball first start for you?
So I feel like I've been playing basketball, around basketball, since I was born. I mean, my dad was fortunate enough, my parents, to put me in organized sports from when I was 4 or 5 years old. Playing basketball, playing football, playing baseball, but I always somehow just gravitated more to basketball. Just the expression that you could have in the game, because out of all the sports that I actually played, basketball was probably the worst sport. That I was the worst at that sport. I was definitely baseball and football, but just the emotion that you can pour into the game. In baseball, you're standing around. Sometimes you need a big hit and you're nowhere near next up to bat, so you can't even have an impact on the game. Or in football, it's dependent on play calling, and if the ball comes to you, or if you're on defense, the ball comes to your side of things to make a play. And I just enjoyed that, especially being a point guard growing up, that you're always an extension of the coach, and you can always have an impact even if it wasn't scoring. So I kind of fell in love with, my dad coached me up until I was in the 8th grade. So I fell in love with the finer points of the game and getting in the car and getting chewed out by my father and trying to see things from a different aspect. And then I'm fortunate enough that I went to St. Peter's Boys High School, and I had 3 great coaches because I played freshman, JV, and varsity that really helped push my love for the game and my development of the game, IQ wise, and I had a phenomenal experience. So starting at a really young age was definitely important, and I have my parents to really thank for putting me in organized sports at a young age.
So you're from Staten Island?
From born and raised.
Oh wow. So what part of Staten Island did you grow up in, and what was the basketball culture out there in the borough?
Yeah, I have a big pride. So I always tell when people ask me where I'm from, wherever I am, I say Mariners Harbor, Staten Island. I don't say Staten Island, New York, and I don't say New York, New York. I say Mariners Harbor, Staten Island, because Mariners Harbor part of Staten Island is who I am and has a big part of my day-to-day life. So I started going to school. So I lived for the majority of my life. I just recently moved out of the neighborhood, and that neighborhood is at the core of who I am. And not just that neighborhood, but the basketball culture in Staten Island is a huge one. We know we all have a chip on our shoulder out here because we're always the fifth borough, and with respect to all the other boroughs, because there's more history in these boroughs. There's bigger name players that have come, that have played in college or have done big things in high school, city championships and NBA players, and we don't really have that. But we do have a lot of great basketball. We have a lot of great high school basketball. We're the only borough that has a true borough champion, where we have the public school and the Catholic schools play one big tournament, and it's comparable to Hoosiers. I mean, everybody in Staten Island comes out. The gyms are packed. The games, the semifinals or quarterfinals, are usually at CSI or college. They've been at Wagner College. They've been at Petrides High School, that used to be the old CSI. Same for the championship game. So people really care about basketball here. And we have had and still have a lot of great basketball players that come here. And even going forward into the summer, a lot of our guys, maybe we don't have one dominant AAU team on Staten Island, but a lot of our guys have contributed to the big programs. We have had guys who have been Wrens. We have had guys who have been Jayhawks. I'm not sure if we've had guys that have been PSA Cardinals. So we've had guys play for these major organizations, and maybe people don't know that they're from Staten Island. Maybe they go to school somewhere else, or whatever the case may be. And then you have these summer street tournaments, just like you have in other places. Like I said, we don't have the history of those tournaments, but a lot of those guys that you might not have heard of because they didn't have the high school career or college career, they're out here playing. And we have a ton of a lot of great Staten Island players who have played in college who come back and play in these tournaments and give back to the younger guys. So Staten Island basketball community is a big one. It's a great one. It's one that pulls for each other. I know whenever there's a Staten Island kid playing on TV, I'm trying to watch, regardless of if I know them or not, because we all kind of hang on to their success, because we don't have 10 guys going Division I every year. We might not have 10 guys that go Division I in 5 years. So when guys go or they play anywhere in college, D1, D2, or D3, we're supporting them. And that's the biggest thing. So I think it's going to continue to grow. We have a lot of young kids, really, really young kids that are great. And the high school coaches here are great, and the youth coaches here are great. So it's a very, very big basketball community, ones that really care about it. 8th grade championship games are packed out. There are 1,500 people, standing room only at games. So people really care about the basketball here.
Yeah, man. So what was some of your favorite tournaments playing that you played in when you were younger?
Yeah, so the two tournaments that you have to play in when you're growing up is Trucks, which is at PS 35 on Staten Island, Trucks Round Ball Classic, which has been going for over 30 years, for not 40 years. I don't want to overstate how long, but it's been going for a long time. And Truck McGee, who's actually a friend of mine's father, he's a legend on Staten Island because he keeps all these kids off the street in the summer. And, it's a park with 2 courts, so they're always playing next to each other. And, if you don't play in Trucks in the summer growing up, then you're basically not playing anywhere. I don't care what other tournament is going on. Trucks is the tournament to be at. It's man-to-man only. So you get a lot of one-on-one and isolation action that has to happen due to the rules. It's the old NBA rules. And you kind of build your toughness and your competitiveness from 13. I remember the first time I played in Trucks, I was going into freshman year of high school in the summer, and we were playing against kids that were going to varsity. And this one kid just ISO'd us, and shout out to KK LeBrew. I don't know if he knows this, but he's he just ISO'd us the entire game. He had 50 plus, and it was crazy because every time we helped, we got called for a technical foul. So it's something that you have to learn being out there on the island, literally. So that was a big tournament. And another one is was the former Nike League, which is now the Call Beanie League. It's at Clove Lakes on Staten Island. It's still going on. These two leagues are down the block from each other. So you would have a game early in the morning at Nike League at Clove Lakes. Then you walk right up the hill, grab a bacon, egg, and cheese or something, walk up the hill, and hang out at trucks all day until the games were over. So that was a lot of my childhood. It still goes on now. The Nike League is called the Call Beanie League. Artie Conroy runs that. He's a big-time coach that Staten Island just recently retired. He used to coach at Moore Catholic, the head varsity coach. And those are the leagues for the younger guys to play in the summer. And it's such a great time. And those guys do a great job of running those leagues.
Yeah, man. That's big time right there. So, what made you decide to go to St. Peter's?
So it was tough because I went to public school most of my life, but I felt like I wanted to go to a private school for high school to be a little bit more focused and to do things that I needed to do. And when deciding, I was thinking in between St. Peter's and Moore Catholic. And at the time, Kyle McLaughlin, who played at Notre Dame, was at Moore Catholic. He's a year older. So I really thought, it'd be great to have a chance to play with him in high school. But what it came down to was basically just like the feeling that myself and my family had with St. Peter's. Coach Driscoll's a legend, was the varsity coach, never promised my family anything. Showed that they wanted us to be there in the school and that the academics fit what I was looking for, but never promised I would be moved up, never promised I would play varsity at any point, just promised I would work hard and they would stay on me. And Coach Buckeye, who used to be the old Curtis coach, who now coaches at Mater Dei High School, was the JV coach. And, those guys had a real big impact on me. So I like the fact that, heading into high school because I wanted to focus. I like the fact that it was an all-boys school and that the kids were really focused and you go in there doing your work and focus on basketball. So, as a 14-year-old kid, you're kind of looking at it first and just like, wow, there's no girls. Like, I don't know about that. I started to grow onto the ideas. I seen the older guys that I looked up to were having success there and they didn't think it was a big deal. And when I seen those guys were really focused on those things, I felt like that was the path I needed to follow. And that was one of the best decisions I ever made, or my family ever helped me made, to send me to St. Peter's, because I still love that school to this day.
Yeah, man. It's like I went to an all-boys school too, Eagle Academy. My little brother goes to Cardinal Hayes. So, he's enjoying it. He's learning, everything that comes with, a brotherhood. And as far as, that is a culture shock for a lot of young men because, they used to it being a co-ed environment, but the girls be waiting outside after school. So that's how it is, man.
Yeah.
But yeah, talk about St. Peter's as a school.
Yeah, St. Peter's, like you said, you use the word that's big, and I think it's kind of overthrown now sometimes, but brotherhood, it's a brotherhood. It's really a school where the older guys are taking care of the younger guys, and you got to earn everything that you have. Even earning, where you sit in their lunch your freshman year, you got to, you don't just go and sit down somewhere. There are places that the older guys have been sitting for 3 or 4 years, and they're going to sit there. So, I loved it. It was a competitive atmosphere. I played 5 sports at St. Peter's, so I ended up playing 5 sports. So I was able to connect with a lot of different people that were in the school. A lot of the teachers coached or operated in another activity. So, my soccer coach was my chem teacher, and my other soccer coach was my health teacher, and my football coach was my bio teacher, and so on and so on. So being able to play multiple sports and being able to connect with a lot of different kids who, growing up in Mariners Harbor, it's a certain demographic. It's mostly minority, mostly Black, and then going to St. Peter's, which is mostly white, and different middle class to upper middle class families, hardworking families, but it's a different atmosphere. So being able to surround yourself with that and understand how to operate in that environment was very important for me, but also very important for me to succeed while I was there, because I felt that, there wasn't a lot of people that looked like me in St. Peter's, and maybe I'd have a chance to open up an opportunity where somebody could say, well, Tibbs goes there, so I could go there too, and I can do that. And that's something I still preach, because a lot of kids don't grow up either with the money to go to private school or with the vision to see that, or want to go to all boys school because they feel like they get played by their friends. And I feel like my experience and some of the things I'm doing now will enable a kid who's 12 or 13 to say, hey, I want to go to St. Peter's, or I want to go to another Catholic school or private school. And you know, if that's the right fit for you, it doesn't mean private school, Catholic school is better. It just was the right fit for me at that time. You know, I wasn't a bad kid, but I definitely could have used more discipline and structure. And there's all discipline and structure when you go to private school. So from the clothes that you're wearing to making, you know, this being on time is non-negotiable. You know, you're 1 minute late, you're getting detention. It's impossible to class. You can't. It's just, you just can't cut class. Your parents are going to know 5 minutes after it happens. And those things were important to help shape me into who I am. So I'm forever grateful. I always try to get down there, whether I'm recruiting a kid or not, but always try to get down to the school to say hello to, you know, to my former teachers or coaches, and try to keep the relationship. But I'm, you know, very proud of how the school continues to grow. And, you know, I think it's the best high school in the world. So, but I'm biased.
Yeah. I mean, I love what you just said about, you know, how a lot of kids, you know, can't afford the Catholic school route. And that's very true, especially in these times with, you know, with COVID and, you know, a lot of parents going out of work. But on the flip side, a lot of people are taking their kids out of the public school system. Like, I just read somewhere in the paper that 30,000, like they're like the DOE lost like 30,000 kids to private and parochial schools. So when you see that, it's like Catholic schools everywhere, you know, they have an effect, you know, on these kids. And it's like, as far as the financial part, like there's programs like SSP where, you know, I think that program just isn't made exclusive to a lot of families, or a lot of people really don't know about it. You know, like that's something that could really help a lot of kids from places like where I live, you know, in the South Bronx, or kids from Mariners Harbor out in Staten Island or in other parts, you know. Like, as there are some great public schools, don't get me wrong, but you know, a lot of these public schools from places where we're at, it's like it's very easy for the kids to fall, you know, to be led astray. Unfortunately, you know, that's why, you know, I work at an alternative high school in Brownsville, Brooklyn, BDA, shout outs to BDA, where a lot of kids, for one reason or another, they couldn't cut it at a regular high school. You know, whether it could have been behavioral issues, it could have been they didn't have the willingness to go to class, a million and one things. But, you know, for whatever reason, they ended up were at the school, and they have to go twice as hard, you know, to graduate high school. So, you know, a lot of things could go wrong. And also they don't really nurture these kids enough. You know what I'm saying? So it's a million and one things, man.
It's all about fit. I mean, regardless of what it is, public school, Catholic school, private school,
It's
I think it's
the
just
right educational fit.
And everybody's fit is different. And some people's fit may change as they get older. Some of their goals may change. Some of their habits, their disciplines may change, and some of their family situations may change. You know, a fit might have been to go to a school that was an hour and a half commute from you, but now your family needs you at home. So you need to find a school that fits, that's closer to home for you, because you may be needed at home. And you know what you get. There are people everywhere that are going through everything. It's not, you know, I don't like when people say, well, public school kids this, and yeah, you may see more types of different issues or challenges in certain types of schools or areas, for sure. But those challenges don't just happen in those places. The support system and the attention to those challenges just are different in different environments. So the same things that I've seen, and kids from my neighborhood that were athletes and were going to the local high school, which was Port Richmond High School, and were flourishing there. We're going to another high school on Staten Island, maybe like a Curtis or Susan Wagner, and we're flourishing there. And then I have kids that went to St. Peter's or went to school off the island, all from my neighborhood. and everybody had a different fit and everybody had a different challenge that they had to deal with within that fit. So, but the best thing is to have people around you that really care for you. That's always encourage kids that even if you don't play sports or even if you don't love it, get involved, because that's an extra set of eyes, or another, 2-3 sets of eyes that are going to look out for you, that that are going to care about how you're feeling that day, that are going to talk to you, that are going to keep, because it takes a village for every kid. I'm blessed to have 2 great parents that are still very involved in my life. But at the same time, I'd be here all day if I rattled off all the people that I'm grateful for to help get me to where I am now. Regardless of what school I went to, there are enough adults that took interest in me that pulled me aside and would set me straight. My parents can't do everything. Parents can't. You need to put them next to people who can look out for them. So every school has its different challenges and different abilities and different people to look out. And I just think that's the most important thing for kids.
Most definitely. So moving forward, let's talk about, the basketball years at St. Peter's. Talk about freshmen.
Yeah. So I played freshman, JV, and varsity, and some of these guys that playing against in the city, because freshman is the level where you play the city teams the most. You play Rice, you play Rays, you play Severian. You play these schools, and a lot of these guys, because I had a very good class. 2006 high school class was a very good class, and a lot of these guys have played against an AAU. They play in the Gauchos, so it's crazy when you start to see these kids in high school settings, and then at different schools. So on freshman level, I'm playing against Trevon Charles, who went to QUNYAC, who was at Rice, or Edgar Sosa, who played freshman basketball, who ended up going to Louisville and is still playing, I believe. And all these guys, Brian McKenzie, who's one of my best friends at Severian, guys like Brian McMichael, who was really good. So I'm playing against guys in the freshman level that are really, really, really good basketball players that maybe in Staten Island they wouldn't be on a freshman team. They might be on a varsity team, because our talent isn't like that. But it was cool to watch these guys develop, especially as they, got to college, because, my senior year of high school, we played all these guys, and, Brian McKenzie's going to Providence, Sosa's going to Louisville, Kirk Kells is going to UConn, and so on. James Feldean's still playing in Europe. He's going to Quinnipiac. So you got all these guys that are really, really good that you're watching on TV later in life, and you're playing against them. And my guys and myself were the type of guys that, we're St. Peter's on Staten Island, and actually my senior year and junior year team, we weren't that great, but we're going to go out there and we're going to compete with these guys. And, I don't care where they're going to college. They're here now. We're on the same court now. So we might as well do what it do. But, my experience was great. My coaches always put us in situations to play the best teams. We always scheduled in a great way, whether it's playing in New Jersey or, like I said, we play Severian every single year. I played Rice almost every single year. Didn't play in my senior year, but playing against these teams were important. And for me, it was important because I wanted to measure myself up against these guys, because nobody talked about the 5'9" point guard from St. Peter's. I was 140 pounds soaking wet. And they talked about everybody else. So it was always my opportunity to get out on the court and to compete, and not to earn respect. Is just to go out there and, I love the competition. So go out there and, you can feel like you can play with these guys, but you got to do it on a consistent basis. And, my windows were smaller because we weren't in the city league every year. At least now St. Peter's plays, they play these guys every year in a league type of setting. But, that wasn't the case when I was in high school. So when you did get those opportunities, you needed to go do something. And when you played against these guys. So, I thoroughly enjoyed it. I think that's why, the Catholic League is one of the best leagues in the country when you talk about a pure high school league. With all respect to everybody else, there's a bunch of other leagues that are good too, but obviously I'm biased in that fact, and especially in the era that I played in, guys who are just really, really, really good, and I thoroughly enjoyed being a part of that.
Now, talk about the high school games on the island. When you guys played Curtis, whether it was at CSI or Wagner.
Yeah. So my 4 years, they were always at CSI. And that's the biggest game. Thanksgiving Eve is the best tradition on Staten Island, period. As far as anything, Thanksgiving Eve, you have your traditional rivalries in basketball. Everybody's back home from college, and the St. Peter's Curtis game is the biggest game on Staten Island. And in my 4 years, they were held at CSI. And like I said, the gym is always packed, the standing room only. Everybody's back. It's on TV. And it's just, this can't be a better atmosphere. And it's funny because St. Peter's and Curtis are rivals per se, because you always play that big game, and you got the schools separate each other by like maybe a 5-minute drive. So we're not that far from each other. Curtis is in New Bryan, we're in West Bryan. It's the neighborhood next to each other. But I wouldn't say that the schools hate each other. The schools are totally different. I think Curtis would say that they have other rivals that like they really have issues with, and I would say the same as a St. Peter's kid. I would say Monsignor Farrell was our rival, but that game and that tradition ran deep. So I never hated any of the Curtis kids. I love competed against them, and it's the best thing. So it's the best rivalry. This is the first year that it hasn't happened in like 50 something years, which is just crazy because I've been going since I was in the 6th grade and I haven't missed one since. So it's crazy that the game is not happening, but every year you can mark your calendar where you can see people that you might not have seen since the last game. So it's a great tradition between two of the best basketball schools on Staten Island, and it's great to say that I was a small part of that tradition.
Mm-hmm. And one of my guys from when I went to St. Francis was also a graduate of St. Peter's. Shout out to my man Glenn Sanabria. For those that may know him as Glenchy, he played ball at St. Peter's and also St. Francis College.
Yeah, and next to be he's gonna have a top 1 hit on the Billboard charts at some point. Glenn, we're from the same. We actually grew up on the same block. We live on the same block. So yeah, so Glenn Sanabria, that's my guy. I watched him grow up. He's obviously younger than me. We played at the same grammar school. We were coached by the same guy, my father. So there's a lineage there of guys that went from St. Adalbert's, which was our school that we graduated from, to St. Peter's. And I'm proud of that because, he's one of those guys, and obviously had a phenomenal career at St. Francis, and is now going to have a phenomenal career as a musician. He's a tremendous musician, and I'm certainly proud of him for that.
So did you ever get to play against Kyle McAlarney in high school?
Yeah, so he played so my junior year we played against each other. We played twice. And growing up in Staten Island, we worked out at the same gym, the YMCA. So always he was on varsity from his freshman year, and he's always really good. And you always hear, especially his junior year, I was on JV, and he averaged 35 points a game his junior year. And it's like you hear Kyle had 40, Kyle had 45, Kyle had 50, Kyle had 61 versus McClancy. Like you're hearing all these things, and because first and foremost, I've known Kyle since I was in the 7th, 8th grade, and that dude just works. So none of that was surprising. And talk about great classes. That 05 class on Staten Island is arguably the best class to ever come from Staten Island. It's definitely one of the top ones. But when you talk about guys that are in that class, but yeah, we got to play against each other twice. And I'm not gonna lie. I mean, boy had 35 one game and 40 something in 3 quarters in the other game. Like he was just something to be seen in high school. I mean, his shooting ability, being able to shoot from anywhere, and football games. And I think when you look at teams now and stuff, like those kids were so selfless. They weren't thinking about where they're going to college or anything. They were thinking about how am I going to get Kyle McAlarney open, and so he can get this 40 piece, and we could call it a day because that was the best chance of winning. And they had very good athletes on the team. I mean, they had this guy. They had Bobby Lanigan, who ended up getting drafted in early rounds for Major League Baseball. So they had guys that could play on their team and that were athletes. Sean Pastiglione is a college basketball coach right now. He's coaching at Moravian. So they really had a good team, but Kyle McAlarney was really just that good. And I was so happy that he got to show what he could do, not only at Notre Dame, playing in the Big East with a lot of those guys I was mentioning before, like Sosa and B-Mac and Kirk Kells, but going in the D League for a little bit and then playing overseas in France. And, that guy's, one of the best high school players to ever play on Staten Island, basketball players that ever come from Staten Island.
Mm-hmm. So, well, shout outs to the St. Peter's graduating class of 2006. So, how did the Monmouth University opportunity come up?
Yeah, so great question. So, I was one of those kids that just felt like you see all these kids going D1 around you. I didn't understand, recruiting or anything, just the people who would reach out. And I got a lot of interest from a lot of academic schools. So a lot of division academic schools and things. And the only thing I knew is that when I was 17, 18 years old, I knew I was going to want to coach in the future and probably in college. So it was really important for me to get to a Division I school for that reason, because I felt like, how am I going to coach D1 if you don't play D1? I don't think anybody's going to respect you. So there were a couple schools that were like interested in me and recruiting me in my senior year, Charleston Southern in South Carolina, but like that was just like way too far for me to even ever really seriously consider. And I appreciate the people who helped me get that opportunity. St. Francis for like a very hot minute. And I know Monmouth University was recruiting some guys on Staten Island. And a couple of my assistant coaches who have relationships with Dave Calloway at Monmouth, put in a good word. I had gotten into the school on an academic scholarship anyway. So they had put in a good word for me that I was able to walk on to the basketball team. And when I got offered that opportunity, it was just set in stone that I was going to go there. One, because I watched Wagner College my whole entire life compete, and there's a lot of great players, and I've seen the NEC my whole life. So I thought it was exciting to get a chance to go compete in that league, and Monmouth was always one of the better teams in that league. So that was exciting to kind of join that winning culture. And a team that has been to the NCAA tournament 3 times in like the past 5 years before I got there. And then I wasn't going to be that far from home. So that was important. I could still get home and coach AAU, which I did, and do other things I had to, to help my coaching career. Because ultimately, competitive-wise, I wanted to play Division I. But I had an eye always on coaching and trying to see the inner workings of a Division I program. So it got me an opportunity to walk on. I'm still forever grateful for that. And big shout out to Dave Calloway, who gave me an opportunity, and the assistant coaches who gave me a lot of responsibility and practice of running the scout team. And it was a phenomenal experience. I still have friends from Monmouth. And in the end of that year, it just wasn't, the school life and things just wasn't for me. And, just had to leave there and then go do some other things.
So what did you do after that first year at Monmouth? When you left?
Yeah, so I went and, still wanting to be in the Division I program. I came back home and I went to Wagner College. And at first it was going to be, I'm going to join the basketball team and do some things like that. And but then when school started, there were some compliance things because they were both in the NEC at the time where there was a NEC transfer rule where you'd have to sit out 2 years. I redshirted anyway. It was just really confusing and frustrating. And so then I wasn't going to be put on a roster. So I was really lost at that time. I was recruited there to play football when I was in high school. So I thought about playing football because I'd never been without a season. So I was kind of lost for a while. So I was there for 2 years as a student. I was on the track team for a little bit, just trying to find my way to do something because it's the first time I wasn't involved in basketball. And I was really frustrated with the business of basketball and frustrated because I didn't have any help navigating it. Just really didn't understand a lot of different things. And I just felt like I put a lot of time and energy into basketball. Like I don't understand what's going on. And not because I'm not smart or anything, but you just don't understand the layers of this recruiting stuff and the rules and all that. And my parents never went through it. So my parents will help me do anything, but they don't know what they don't know. So they can only do so much. So I spent 2 years there. I probably went to every home basketball game. They had very good teams, and we had some Staten Island guys on the team too. So it was good to see their team be successful. But then, after that, those 2 years, I took a year off from school to kind of try to figure out what is it I'm going to do. There's no way in the world that I'm a basketball player and I'm never going to play college basketball at all. Like that was just so crazy to me. So I took a year off, coached basketball, and then figured out I would love to finish my academic career and start my athletic career at the College of Staten Island, and it was the best decision I ever made.
Mm-hmm. So 2010 comes. How did CSI come into the picture?
Yeah, so I reached out to Coach Petozo, who had recruited me in high school and recruited me when I left Monmouth, and I had my eyes on other things. I reached out to him, and he wasn't really open to me coming at first. Just didn't believe that I was serious about what I was trying to do at the school. But I enrolled in the school. I went to the open runs that were ran by the players. I was around all the time. And then, when the tryouts came and everything, luckily and fortunate enough for me, Coach Petoza took me on the team and just helped me grow as a basketball player. So I was very lucky. I had a lot of guys on the team, a couple of guys we all came at the same time that I knew. And the older guys on the team, the guys that already been there, they accepted me with open arms. So walking into a program where they had been losing for a little bit, it was great being around a program that was really hungry and kind of matched my desire to kind of prove to people that, I haven't played in a while, but, I can still do this. And, this is what I love to do. And like I said, it was the best decision that I made. We had a lot of success because I was a part of a team with a lot of great players. And I was just fortunate enough to be the point guard on those teams.
So talk about those 2 years at CSI when you were a player.
Yeah, just in general, like I said, we lost the championship my first year to a great Medgar Evers team. Shout out to Chris Pursue, phenomenal coach, man. And we bounced back the next year and we won a championship, and we were able to continue to push our run and to win 2 games in the NCAA tournament and head to the Sweet 16, where we lost to MIT in around the 16. And like I said, I played on the team with the leading scorer in school history, Bluesy McGlure, who was amazing, one of the best players to ever play at CSI. Jordan Young, who was a future Hall of Famer at our school. Another guy, Dale Toronto, was an amazing basketball player, 4-year starter. So I was surrounded by a bunch of really great players, and I was just a small part on that team to play and do my part. But the biggest thing that I took from it is the way that Coach Petozo was a legend, how he ran his program, how he ran his practices, how he approached things. And I always took mental notes to everything. And it's still, a lot of things that I do today. So that was a very beneficial experience for my life, personally, professionally, and just being able to put something down on paper as a basketball player.
So your senior year, you had 15 points, 183 assists. Wow, that's a lot. And you were named the Division III All-American. Talk about that season.
Yeah, so I had a lot of assists because I played with a lot of great players. So it's easy to get assists when you're passing the ball to guys who can score, whether you're on the court or you're not on the court. So some of those guys that I mentioned before, but at the time, we had the most wins in school history, most games won in a row, school history. That's since been broken. We won 19 games in a row, but there's a team that won more than that after that, which is crazy. But we were just really hungry. We had lost the year before, so we were really hungry to really win the championship. But not only win the championship, we really wanted to do some things nationally. We really felt like we were going to win a national championship. And, our leaders on the team, and I was one of them, but, our leaders, Jordan Young, Dale Toronto, they really pushed us every single day. Didn't matter if we won by 50 the night before, we were coming back in practice and we were really working really hard. And a lot of guys who played, we only played about 8-9 guys in the rotation, but the guys that didn't really play in the games, they were very important. And some of those guys are big time in coaching. I mean, Herschel Jenkins is at Fordham University, and J.C. Albano was somebody who coached with me. He was an assistant coach, and he's now the athletic director at Moore Catholic. Kurt Manessi, who's an assistant coach with me right now. These guys, so these were the type of basketball minds that we had on the bench helping us and pointing things out to us while we're on the court and pushing us in practice and running other teams' stuff. So we had a great culture of getting better. Guys were really hard on each other. We really competed. Those guys that I mentioned that didn't play that much, they were unforgiving when when we had practice after a tough game, they were coming in and they were still playing really hard and pushing us. So they were the reason why we were able to keep growing our potential and our ceiling. And it's one of the best years that I've ever experienced, even off the court.
Mm. And you had a 40-point game against Rhode Island College in the second round. Talk about that game.
Yeah, I mean, it's one of those games where you just feel like you could kick the ball into the rim. And that's basically because the team had to focus on, Jordan Young and Bluchie McGlure. Without the teams focusing on those two guys so hard, I don't think I would have had some of these opportunities to put the ball in the basket. And it was just something that at the time, a bunch of my shots were going in. My teammates, of course, were encouraging me to keep shooting and setting me up well, setting great screens, finding me in transition and whatever the case may be. And, they really set me up for and a lot of people bring up that game, and it seems like a great individual performance, but it really was the culmination of everybody else that was helping me score the points, because it wasn't my job on that team to score the points. Did I score points? For sure. But it was my job to make sure that everything was running smooth, to facilitate everything, and to make sure our two main guys were getting the ball where they were supposed to. But in that game, they were struggling a bit, but they were giving me the torch for that day and just letting me know, we got your back, keep going, be aggressive, all these things. And like I said, it seems like I scored 40 points. I ended up putting the ball in the basket, but a lot of the guys who did the job enabled me to put the ball in the basket that day. So just grateful to be able to be tied with a win with something like that. A lot of times guys have great performances and they lose, so it doesn't matter. So I'm just glad it came in a win.
Shout outs to the CSI graduating class of 2012, which you were a part of.
Yep, 2012.
Yeah, that's a good year. So, while you were in school, you also coached high school ball at Curtis. Talk about that experience.
Yeah, it's kind of weird at first. I coached here for 3 years, and it's kind of weird at first because, you're known as this kid from St. Peter's. And like I said, we don't hate each other, but, we're part of the biggest game on Staten Island, besides the championship game, which most of the time it is Curtis versus St. Peter's. So getting there and being a part of the Curtis community, was a great thing for me, something I'm still very grateful for, because it's just a different feel. And we were coming in at a time where, man, the senior class, Mike Ballaghan, Halil Kanasevich, Carl Allen, guys on and on, Dev Gardner, there were guys that were really, really good on that team. And, we ended up winning. Our varsity team ended up winning the City A division and playing against Tobias Harris and Isla Harris and Ashraf Yakubu and those guys. Derek Klein, shout out to Derek Klein, that's my guy, at Lehigh. So we lost to them in the States. So, that experience was great for me. Coach Buckeye was the head coach, and I was able to learn a lot from him. He had coached me at JV in St. Peter's, and I was surrounded by a lot of great coaches where I could soak things in, and a lot of great players, a lot of great guys that I still talk to today that challenged us, and able to watch them grow over 3 years. And it was a phenomenal experience for me to be a part of that. It was tough being from St. Peter's and sitting on the Curtis bench, especially those Thanksgiving Eve games. But
I can only imagine.
Man, I got booed by my own. I don't understand. I got booed by my own school just walking out on the court, man. It was like the biggest
traitor, yeah.
yeah, biggest no thing to do. But no, very grateful for that. And still have a lot of professional friends that I have from that time. Eric Ritter, who gave me a chance to coach the freshman team, was still the AD at Curtis. And just very grateful that they gave a young kid a chance to coach, especially while I was still playing at CSI and balancing both, which was very difficult.
So when did NJIT come into play under Jim Engles?
Yeah. So after I graduated, I was trying to go pro and playing some things. I had some D-League tryouts and couple of things with a team in Germany and a team in Egypt, but Coach Engles gave me an opportunity to join the staff in 2013-14. I jumped at it, and I was director of operations there, which is the hardest thing I've ever done in my life, basketball-wise, because you do everything but basketball. So can't coach, can't recruit, can't do all these things that when it's your first year in college basketball, you just want to do. You just want to tell somebody something about the jump shot or help them out or strategy, but you just worried about everything else. You're worried about the travel, the meals, the anything, wiping the floors, doing the clock, whatever it may be. And it really taught me a lot about servant leadership and being a servant in general and trying to do the best I could to make sure that the head coach and assistant coaches do stuff off their table. It was anybody who says that it's not a struggle is really lying to themselves.
Yeah.
It's a big struggle, mentally, emotionally. But there's a lot of challenges to go with that. You're on the road and people got to deliver food on time, and you don't know these people. They don't have the same urgency that you operate with. It's tough. It's tough when people are a game and you're preparing to order meals and making sure that they come at the right time so we can get out to places. But it's a big part of my growth for a lot of things. It's helped make me more organized. It's helped me listen to people more and understand the inner workings of things. And Coach Engles is a genius, is a basketball genius, and somebody I'm still fortunate enough to keep in touch with today, and learned a lot from him. Brian Kennedy, who's now the head coach at NJIT, he was on staff. So Jesse Agel, who used to be the head coach at Brown, was on staff. So I was surrounded by 3 head coaches every single day in the office. So invaluable for somebody who's in their first year of college basketball. And every one of those guys, as well as the administration, helped me a lot in my growth, and I'm forever grateful for that.
Oh, so they wasn't on the Division I level at that time?
Oh, we were Division I. We were Division I.
Was this the same year they beat Michigan?
No, so that was the year after. It was the year after, 2 years after. I believe it was the year after they beat Michigan. Okay. I know a lot of guys, freshmen, that were a part of that. Damon Lynn, who's the best player to ever play at NJIT. Got Tim Coleman and those guys, Winfield Willis, like those guys were a part of that. And I remember watching that game. I think it was the year after. But I could be wrong with my timing. I'm pretty sure it was the year after. But yeah, shout out to that. I was going crazy watching that game.
So after that year, you went on to coach the Staten Island Musketeers, I believe. Talk about going back to being able to coach AAU after being on a Division I staff. Because as we all know, once you join a Division I basketball program, you basically restricted from doing any and everything.
Right. Yeah. So, coaching the Musketeers was a phenomenal organization on Staten Island. It was kind of like I got the chains let off me because I've been sitting just watching basketball and not being able to do basketball things for a while. So being able to jump out and help young guys with their recruitment, apply some things that I've been learning over the years as far as that, the recruiting and actually coaching basketball was just real refreshing because I was trying to figure out, what I was going to do next. And I ended up at Baruch College. But, giving back to AAU and getting on the court and putting some of these things I've been writing down that I've been seeing and putting some of it into use and making it mine was, it was a big thing for me with AAU. And has always been a big thing for me why I coached AAU for so long, even when I was coaching in college, because you actually get to, shape your philosophies and shape how you do things with AAU. You play so many games. You see so many different situations. You see it over and over and over again. So I said when I became a head coach, I would have all these games under my belt coaching because a basketball game is a basketball game. So it doesn't matter what level it is. I mean, it's the same rules. So I'm grateful to be able to coach AAU and to be out there on the court.
So July 2014 comes and you wound up going to Baruch. Talk about, your time at Baruch.
Yeah, another time that I went to the, our rival of a school that I was a part of because Baruch's, our rival at the College of Staten Island. So John Alisi is another people think. John Alisi, phenomenal coach, phenomenal friend now too. But he had offered me a chance to go to Baruch, and I seen the way they ran their program and some of the things he could do to help me, and some of the things I felt I could help add as I was growing. And I was grateful to go there. At first, it was and Tamara Freed, who was the associate head coach there now. We competed against each other in college. So it took us like the first 2 or 3 days. We didn't even say anything to each other because we probably both thinking like, man, this dude still probably can't guard me. Like we still had some animosity from playing days because they were so weird. But being a part of that staff, and John Alisi is, I hate these things with kids, but he's a Division I coach. He runs his program like a Division I program. He spent time at Hofstra and he spent time at Pitt. He spent time at Manhattan. So he knows what the inner workings of a Division I program is, and he knows what that stuff is, and he puts that into his program, which is very, very important. And he was able to help me shape. He was able to help me shape how you run a program and be able to do for me. So, a lot of growth there. We were fortunate to win a championship in my first year, which was amazing. And we competed for a championship in my second year. But every year, John pushed the envelope on how we were going to grow, how organized we were going to be. And he really taught me how to run a program. He opened my eyes to everything else that goes with basketball, and not just the stuff on the court. And him and his dad, I give a shout out to his family, him and his dad constantly encouraged me that, I would be able to be a solid head coach whenever my time came, and just, gave me a lot of confidence to keep going in what I want to do. And I owe a lot. I say it all the time. I owe a lot to John Alisi. He's done a lot for myself and my family to help put me in the position I'm in today.
So in the middle of the 2016-17 season, the opportunity came for you to coach at College of Mount St. Vincent as the interim coach. How excited were you for that opportunity?
It's actually really tough because, like you said, it was in the middle of the season, and at Baruch we were chasing the championship, and I really loved the guys, but I just thought that head coaching opportunities, regardless of how they are in college, they don't come along that much. It's hard for you to get involved in them. So I had a chance to be involved in it out of the blue. And I thought it was something that I had to do if I had to take myself seriously in this profession. It was such a weird experience because I met the kids on a Friday at like 4:00. We practiced for 3 hours. We had a game Saturday at 12:00 against a rival, and we won the game. And all the credit was to those kids because they had been through like a tough situation. So they really, bonded together and really pulled through for those 8 games that I coached them. And I was just really there along for the ride and providing some sense of organization to everything. And a lot of those guys I'm still close with. It was tough on them, especially the seniors. Still fighting for a playoff run, and they taught me a lot about a lot. It was just myself. I didn't have any assistant coaches. It was I have to shout out Nico Zeno, who is a PSA Cardinals coach now, and he was a member of the program, and he was playing, but he was essentially like my assistant coach. I mean, he would tell me things that he's seen and help me out because you're there by yourself. You can't see everything. You're not right about everything. So, those guys really bought into what I was selling at the time, and they fought really, really hard. And we competed in every game that we played. And I was excited to be a head coach, but it was more about once that experience was done, it's more like I can do this. It was giving me that confidence that I can do it because everybody feels that they can do something, then you actually have to go and do it. And I thought that because of that situation, how tough it was, but how I was able to bond with the kids and develop a relationship with the kids, that, if I was ever to get an opportunity to run my own program, that helped prepare me. And then on a bigger note, it helped show decision makers that, my demeanor and that I can actually do it. So, hopefully it was going to give me an opportunity at whatever other point that it would be.
Mm. And then some months later, you became the head coach at your alma mater. CSI. How did it feel coming home?
Man, I can't even put it into words. It was just an amazing feeling and something I thought would never happen. You know, I took over for my coach, Coach Petosa, and nobody would ever thought he would retire or step down. We thought he'd be there until he was 175 years old. Like, he just loved the job. That was just CSI is Coach Petosa. CSI basketball is Coach Petosa. When I was fortunate enough to interview for the job and had some support for some of my teammates and things like that, I was ecstatic. I'll never forget when Charles Gomes, our AD, called me. I was on my way somewhere. I was in the car, and he called me, and I was just I just wanted to cry. Like, sometimes in this business of basketball, like, you don't really understand why things happen, and you gotta wait your turn or whatever the case may be. And all it is you gotta set yourself for an opportunity for somebody to take a chance on you, for somebody to align themselves with you. So I was humbled and overwhelmed that somebody would trust me with my alma mater, a program that I care about a lot, and that I could be the guy to go after Coach Petosa. And it's such a great honor. It's still a great honor. I love the school. I love the program, and I'm just fortunate enough to be the leader every single day.
So your first season, you led the Dolphins to a 17-12 record, a CUNYAC championship, and a first-round appearance in the NCAA tournament. How was it, as a first-year head coach?
There are a lot of ups and downs like every year, but that one more distinct because now you have a personality that's coming in that is not similar to Coach Petosa, even though I understand what he does, and we still do a lot of things that he has put in the program because that's what makes a program. But just a different personality. So a lot of those guys, they were coming off a championship. People were telling us because of all the guys that we lost that, we were rebuilding. We weren't going to be that good. And I owed it to the seniors to not believe that. And they never believed it. It took us a long time to get all of our guys together. Two of our more experienced players were hurt for the early portion of the season. So we were struggling. We didn't have any continuity. But those guys, especially the seniors and the older guys, really led our team to have the success that we had, which included winning a championship and, competing against one of the best CUNY teams that I've ever seen, the Lehman team. We just felt like we played two really good games against them that went down to the buzzer in the two previous games. So we knew that we would have a shot if we played our game. Let's put forward in the NCAA tournament, and we had to represent at the buzzer in the NCAA tournament game. But that year just really showed me that, to never set our goals too small, and anything outside our program is just noise. And yeah, the result might be beautiful, and everybody talks about the championship, but man, it was hard. It was very hard. Rewarding, of course, but it would have been rewarding anyway, even if we didn't win. But it just feels better, when you have that, when you catch that carrot at the end of the race. And those guys set the foundation for what the program was going to do moving forward, even now.
So, second year, you went 17-10, and then you guys lost in the CUNYAC championship game. Like, talk about season 2.
Yeah, so we had two of the best players in the league. Christian Taylor ended up being voted the player of the year, and Adeola Tunji was a first teamer. So we knew we had those guys coming back. We actually lost some guys from the team that we thought would come back. So we thought our team on paper would be very experienced and good, but it ended up being those two guys and then a bunch of new guys that had to grow and had to learn. So another year of ups and downs, which is always going to be. We took a lot of beatings in the beginning, but when we finally added one of our pieces that we thought we had lost, Stephen Flagg, who's super integral to our program, when he came back and we added him, it really helped jumpstart us, and we won a lot of games in a row. He really changed the complexion of our team. So our young guys were able to continue to grow and contribute. We had guys give big-time performances throughout the year. And like I said, Christian Taylor was really good. Adeola Tunji was really good, but Stephen Flagg was probably the most important player on that team for us. to help us get to the point where we lost at the buzzer to a very, very good Baruch team and John Alisi, and give all the credit to them. And I told guys after the game, I mean, this sucks, right? And this sucks to even think about now, but I'd much rather be in this situation than losing early. I lose in the championship game every year as opposed to not, because it sucks losing a championship game, but to me, it sucks to not even be able to get an opportunity to win a championship. So, we're fortunate to compete. I knew it was the last time at the time that a lot of the guys on the team would ever be able to compete for a championship because of the new rules that were going to come into play, transition to Division II.
Now let's talk about, the transition to playing D2. Like, what was that like last season? Because I know you guys struggled, early. Sorry.
Yeah. So we knew it was going to be a struggle, especially the way that we scheduled. And the way that we scheduled, we try to play anybody and everybody. So, starting with the exhibition at Fordham and playing the number 2 team in the country, Nova Southeastern, and playing Barry, who was nationally ranked, playing Pace, who was nationally ranked, playing Stack, who was nationally ranked. We needed to see as a staff and as a program what exactly this looks like. Because D2 is probably the one level that doesn't get as much notoriety.
Yeah, they don't.
People know what Division I teams are and players look like, and you'll know what D3 looks like. Because I think actually D3 does a great job nationally covering their brand. But D2 is kind of just like, okay, well, who's here and who's playing and what does that look like? So I think for us to get that look up close, especially against some of the best teams in the country or in our region, was a phenomenal experience for our kids and our coaching staff. Since we couldn't play for a championship, I thought record was what was record for. Record was only to pad my stats, and who cares about that? So let's just play the best teams we can play. Let's have an experience. Let's get on a plane. Let's do all these other things. Let's stay in a bunch of hotels because these seniors got an experience of competing for a championship taken away from them. I mean, they don't really care that we're going D2. They're on their way out. So they're not really going to experience all those things. So trying last year, I really thought about, well, how do we give our best experience? This is not going to be one big kumbaya. We're not just going to go around, hold hands and play. Like, we're going to go out here and compete. But, let's play a bunch of really great teams as opposed to, all right, how can we get a win scheduling this team, Because it's very hard to beat anybody. But it's one thing when you schedule teams that are really good and are going to be really good. So we were without our best player, Christian Taylor, and another great player in the starter, Shamal Martin, who were redshirting. But credit to the guys on our roster who stepped up. We didn't have that many guys on the team last year, but they did an admirable job of fighting every single night and representing our program in the best way possible. And our experience and how we played it's not reflected in our win-loss record. It's, the win-loss record doesn't tell the whole story, but in the end, in basketball, you are who you are. So, so we struggle win-loss wise, but I'm extremely proud of what we did and how it helped set us up for the future.
Now talk about CSI as a campus.
Amazing campus, really big. A really big campus. When you think CUNY schools, you think about city buildings and small campuses or vertical buildings, vertical campuses. But, CSI is a sprawling campus. So much space. I think we have 104 acres. I think that's what it is. That might be a made up number. I'm not sure, but I think it's 104 acres. Right in the middle of Staten Island. A lot of green grass. A lot of deer now. There's a lot of deer everywhere on campus. It's kind of crazy, especially at nighttime. You walk into your car, you got to look out for Bambi and Bambi's friends just walking around on campus, which is a new experience for me on Staten Island. But no, it's just a great campus. We have great facilities. I think we have one of the best gyms around in this area, regardless of what level it is. And, everything that we have, our programs here and are just great. I try to give people, when they haven't been there, our dorms, they were built in 2012 or 2013, right after I graduated. So they're really nice, apartment style dorms and suite style dorms. So it's a really nice campus to be on. But the biggest thing about the campus is that you're on Staten Island. And Staten Island is known for its food. You can't get any bad food anywhere on Staten Island. So it's great, all the great food that we have right at our fingertips from campus.
That's crazy. Bambi on Staten Island.
And
You know what's funny? I went to SUNY Delhi also. Well, we had deers running through that campus, so I can understand that. I
that's
remember
great.
seeing deers walk like up the hill, going to class.
Yeah.
And this is practically like every morning.
Yeah. It's new. It's a new experience for me. Not a lot of deer on Staten Island, but there's a lot of deer on our. So it's cool to see every once in a while. But you walk out somewhere and they scare you. There's just like 7 of them just chilling in the grass. So just get used to it.
Yeah. So if a kid is looking at CSI to play ball, what would you tell that prospective student athlete?
That has to be alignment. I mean, it's really tough to be here. The last thing we think about is basketball. We know basketball is at the forefront of everybody's mind, but it's the last thing that we think about. We think about how disciplined you are as a student, how disciplined you are in life, and we don't expect for you to be super regimented, but you have to be aligned and wanting to do things that are greater than yourself outside the basketball court. We do a lot of things off the basketball court, and that's first and foremost. Your experience matters, your education, not your degree. Your degree matters, of course, but what type of education are you getting outside of that degree? What are we providing you outside of that? Do you just want to come here and hoop? Because I don't want kids who just want to come here and hoop. I want kids who want to contribute to the community. What community is that? That's the CSI athletic community. That's the CSI school community. That's the CSI, that's the Staten Island sports community. And that's the Staten Island community. You're a member of a lot of different communities, whether you like it or not. You're a role model. You need to be an example for a lot of kids on Staten Island, and maybe even for young men and young women that are on campus. Especially if you're a men's basketball player, you need to take on that responsibility right on your shoulders. So, a lot of people, want to play basketball for a lot of different reasons. That's great. That's why we're here. We get in the gym. We want to be competitive and things, but like I said, basketball is kind of the last thing that we worry about. There are a lot of great basketball players out there, but we got to be aligned in what we want to do. And if you're not ready for things to be really difficult and for us to want you to grow in all aspects and us to really focus on that every day, then this place is not a place for you. And that doesn't mean you're a bad person or doesn't mean that, you can't do things here. It's just the type of person. We recruit people. We don't recruit players. We really try to get to know the people, their families, the people that are important to them, so they understand that, we're really going to push them when they're here. And a lot of that is going to be to do with stuff off the court. But obviously when we get on the court, we're going to be extremely competitive. And, we want you to grow as much and more than, our players want to grow.
Now, this is one of my favorite questions before I lead up to the final question. If you could go back to 2006, what would you tell TJ at 18 as he's going through his transition at St. Peter's?
Great question. Just to trust and believe in yourself and to be patient. Just be patient. You're 18, you want things to happen now. It's got to happen now. I got to go D1 now. I got to have this now. Like, this is the only thing. You have tunnel vision. And being stubborn and having tunnel vision is a gift and a curse. Being stubborn and having tunnel vision has got me past a lot of no's. People saying, no, you can't do this. No, you can't have this. No, we'll just keep fighting and fighting and fighting. Has got me past that, being stubborn. But being stubborn has also closed my mind to opportunities that are right in front of my face. So I have to have a balance of that. Have to understand that there's opportunity everywhere. It's also what you make of it. Have to do your due diligence and don't just shut things down when you don't even know what's going on. So, I was 18. I was very singular minded. I don't regret anything because it's led me to where I am today. And I'm very grateful for that. So nobody's path is straight. Everybody's path is winding in one way or another. And I did a lot of winding early in my professional life from 18 to 24 years old. But it led me exactly to where I am. and I'm very proud of that. There's no what if, so I could have did that because things would have been different. So that's just life. But that's definitely what I would tell myself and, any other 18-year-old that I come across now.
Now, 2 bonus questions. What was it like coaching for the Jayhawks?
Man, when you got to be around Jay David all the time, it's the worst thing in the world, man. But no, big shout out to Jay David, Drew Metz, everybody involved in the program. But those are the top 2 guys in the program as far as, those guys could be assistant coaches anywhere in the country, Division I. Drew Metz and Jay David. And there's a bunch of other guys that are there that are helping with everything. But no, coaching with the Jayhawks was first of all, it gave me a lot of great friendships that I have every single day. That was important, meeting different people. And then exposed me to a different level of basketball and for me to help kids on Staten Island be linked with that because we don't have any big time AU programs on Staten Island. So being able to watch Chris Ledlam not become the player because he always was that type of kid and player that worked really hard and was really good. But the Jayhawks gave him a platform to have that notoriety and be a top 50 type player. So to watch that happen for him and to watch guys like Liam Murphy, who's at Columbia, those things are important to me. And whoever the next Staten Island kid that comes across and is in the JR program, like I really believe in a program that's run by Jay David and Drew Metz. So being a part of that program, coaching with them, still being involved is extremely important. I'm aligned with them. They do things for the right reasons. Not that other programs don't, because we definitely have great programs in Staten Island, but me seeing the inner workings of everything and traveling, coaching in big games and seeing guys when they're 15, 16 years old and now they're in the NBA now or they're big time college players, like that's cool to see too. So it's just great because Jay Davis is a great friend. Is one of my mentors, somebody that has grown me a lot. And, vice versa. I think we all in Jayhawks family, we all pour in each other's cups and allow for our cup to be poured in. And I think that's the greatest thing about the Jayhawks family. And then we're all there for the right reasons for the kids. Nobody's trying to step on each other's toes. We're just trying to do the best thing to make ourselves better and to help the kids go to college for free.
Mm-hmm. So I see you on Twitter a lot. Do you feel like you're a voice for many young coaches out there?
I think first and foremost, I think I'm a voice for myself. Like, I don't necessarily think I represent anybody, but if people agree with some of my opinions and statements, then, cool. I don't say things for people to necessarily agree with them. I usually say things so people can spark thought. I actually love when people disagree with me and reach out to me because I love to be informed about things that I don't know about. I tell people all the time, some people say to me, like, you're pretty outspoken for a college basketball coach. I say, you forget I'm TJ Tibbs before I'm Coach Tibbs. So I can't be this persona that is Coach Tibbs. I can't. It's just kind of made up. It's a made up thing that we think we have to do. And I never want to be at a place where I'm never going to be disrespectful to my place of employment. I'm never going to disrespect my place of employment, especially when I'm representing a lot of young men in my program and things that I tell them not to do. I need to lead by example, but I also have opinions about things. And I think sometimes you can get that across. I have great conversations on Twitter about sports and it's great. It makes like watching live sports interactive because you're sharing opinions about things that are going on. So I think social media is a great tool to be able to grow yourself and have conversations, to connect with people, all those things. So I'm pretty outspoken on a lot of things, but it's also, I don't put anything out there for any other reason, but it's just how I feel at the time, or that's just how I feel strongly about. So whether it aligns with young coaches or coaches in general or whatever that may be, cool. If there's support for something, I say cool. I'm not looking for it, but I think there's a lot of other guys that are a lot smarter than me. That could be a voice for young guys.
Final question. What's next in the future for TJ Tibbs and the CSI Dolphins?
I think number one is right in front of our face is taking care of our seniors and making sure they go out in the right way. But it's just growing ourselves every single day, growing the program. And, we were a championship program as a Division III program. We want to be a championship program as a Division II program. So we can't participate in the playoffs for this year and next year. And then, we're done with our transition. But, we want to compete for a championship every single year on the court. We want to graduate all of our kids that exhaust their eligibility. We want to be 100% on that. If you exhaust your eligibility, you got to graduate. And we want to represent Staten Island the best way we can, whether it's keeping Staten Island kids home, being a team that represents the personality of Staten Island, tough, hardworking individuals and families. And we want to take our Staten Island brand and be as national as we possibly can. But none of that, we can't skip any steps. We have to rely on our past while building a foundation for our future. So can't forget about our alumni and all the people who have built our program up to be where it is now. To me, there's not really a D3 era. There's former players. There's no reason to look at that snobbishly. And, selfishly, I'm one of those guys that played in the D3 era. So, we definitely don't want to forget those guys. And we definitely want to make sure that everything that we're doing is authentic. We're not just doing things to win a recruit or win a moment, just to hold their attention for a little bit. We want to be aligned with all the people that are interested in our program, and we want to be as authentic as possible and be ourselves. And I'd much rather people, love me for who I am and hate me for who I'm not, or love me for who I'm not, or whoever it is. So even if they hate me for who I am. So, so that's just comfortable, and just being comfortable in our own skin and who we are, learning every day, but being unapologetic about things that people think you should change about you that, you shouldn't change. And, trying to make sure our guys have that type of confidence when they're dealing in life.
TJ, thank you for coming on to share your testimonial, and I wish you and the Dolphins nothing but the best moving forward.
Yeah, real quick, Dave, I appreciate you, man. You've been a big supporter of our program. I love what you do. You cover all levels. You really help New York basketball thoroughly through a lot of different platforms. I think this stuff that you do have me on is really humbling. I know the guys that you had on, and I don't know how I fit in that mix, but I'm great. I'm grateful to be in it. And, you guys and a lot of guys that are in the media are very, very integral to growing our game and, putting us and putting myself and our program on the same, levels. I know you used to cover St. John's and things like that. So, giving us an opportunity to be spoken in those same sentences is just amazing. So I'm grateful for you for helping a lot of people, but selfishly helping our program and helping us grow. And when all this stuff is done, then I can't wait to see you in our gym when everything's open up.
Indeed. Well, everybody, this is episode 92 of Hoops Talk with Dave's Joint. Shout outs to everybody that supports my good friend TJ Tibbs. For those of you guys that want to check out TJ's convo on Twitter, go check him out at TJ Tibbs. But, for everybody from Mariners Harbor, Staten Island, St. Peter's St. Peter's High School for Boys, CSI, and all the other schools that TJ's ever been to, and all the programs that he's been involved with, go check this out on YouTube, Facebook, and IGTV. Stay safe, stay blessed. Peace.